Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Hope you're all awesome and well. Good to see a few of you jumping on. Nice and early this morning, as always. Morning, Tim. Good to see you, mate. Hope you're all excellent. I'll do the quick intros as we warm up the old internet, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're dialing in from. Thanks for joining. Fabulous to see all of you here. Jason Witten's my name, if you didn't already know. Some of you do. Maybe some of you don't. Morning, Alison. Hope you're well. Good to see you. We're at Wonderful Wednesday throughout the week. We've been doing this for a little while. Some of you know that. We've been getting together each morning, having a chat over coffee about property investing. So if you're new, let us know. Give us a shout out, say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're coming in from, where you are in this wonderful, wonderful world. Brendan, good to see you, mate. Happy days. What is going on today? Hey, what happened yesterday? Let me know in the chat. No surprise for those who are in the know, but what happened yesterday? What did the RBA do? They put the old cash rate. Howdy, Jeff. Good to see you, mate. They put the cash rate up, folks, and wasn't up 0.25%. Ninth rate rise. Yep, they're going for a few, aren't they? And we know where that's going. We've sort of chatted about this, and today I thought what I wouldn't mind doing. The other week, last week, I got a chance to talk about servicing and lending, and I think it's the most misunderstood concept when it comes to borrowing and lending. And borrowing and lending is not straightforward by any stretch of the imagination. Not all lenders are made equal either. When we have a look at what's going on, there's actually about 130 lenders in Australia. That you can borrow money from. Now, it doesn't mean you qualify for all those 130 lenders, but, there you go. So today I thought we'd talk about borrowing, servicing, what improves it, what makes it worse. Is a 0.25 increase a big deal? There's probably another 2 to come. What's to go? And now the challenge is for many of us, maybe, we get a bit worried about this concept. And I'm going to show you what happened when many people sort of fell asleep at the wheel, right? When it comes to borrowing. Anyway, let's get into that. Let's have a look at. There's those psychological sort of levels often with this sort of stuff. $1 million was a psychological level for, property investors or house buyers. And that $1 million psychological level busted now, a good house anywhere on the east coast of Australia, which is fancy and nice and whatever is, it's $1 million. And, right now, the cash rate cracking above 3%, that's an interesting one as well. But let's go and have a look at what is going on and what we can expect. I talked about this one the other day. This is where we are. Cash rate going up 0.25%. That was already on the cards. It was already on the cards according to, the aggregated opinion. Morning, Adrian. Good to see you. And you guys have heard me talk about this before. The aggregated opinion of many, many professionals. Now, I prefer the aggregated opinion, which shows up in places like the stock market and forward, 10-year bonds and stuff like that. I'm not going to dive deep into the nitty-gritty of it. Join us on Friday. Andy Fenton and I do a little bit more talking about that. What does it look like when, we're sitting here right now in the future? Well, it doesn't look that bad. The cash rate going up to about 3.5%, maybe about 3.75. What does that mean to us in borrowing terms and serviceability, in capacity? Because actually, I'll move that around. What I said this morning in my headline was there's the serviceability is the most misunderstood thing when it comes to borrowing. There are two levers you can pull when it comes to the ability to service. Most of us know that you've got to have a deposit. You've got to have some funds from somewhere. We call that buying power, the ability you have got to contribute towards a loan, cash or equity. But serviceability, the ability for your income and expenses on paper to have a ratio that the lenders are happy with, is the thing that's most misunderstood when it comes to the world of lending. So let's talk about the ability to service loans this morning. And we're going to dive into some details in a minute. But there's two levers you can pull. Two levers you can pull when it comes to improving or worsening. I don't know, is worsening a proper word? What are the two levers you can pull? What are the two things you can do to improve your ability to service on paper when it comes to, that's good, Alison. When it comes to lending, folks, put that in the chat for me. What are the two things we can do? There's only two things. Broadly speaking, when it comes to the ability to borrow, one could be endless, and one has a ceiling. Yeah, income and expenses. Boom, Alison, you're right. Number one, you can reduce expenses. Now, the challenge is, and we'll talk about that in a minute, even if you went and moved in with your mum and dad, I know many young people move in with their parents so they can save some money to get a property or whatever. Even if you do that, the lenders say, well, I know you're saving money, but in real life you should be spending it. So right now we're not even going to allow that to count for servicing. You can there's a baseline. There's only a certain amount of reduced expenses that actually help. Even if you reduce them further down here, that might help for cash, but it doesn't help for servicing. All right. And that's kind of annoying, but that's just the way it is. And what's the other one? It's pretty easy. Two sides of the coin. Well, you can get your income up. Now, income can come in multiple ways. And then we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about what it looks like and et cetera. So let's dive into that. Let's have a bit of a sticky beak, as they say, when it comes to the world of borrowing. Hopefully you guys can see that all right. Now, I've got a little bit of a test here today. Tommy test. and Tommy wants to borrow some money, right? Tommy wants to borrow some money, and Tommy wants to borrow $500,000. This is the loan we're sort of going for. Um, that's the idea. It wants to buy a home, 80% LVR, got a bit of deposit, that sort of stuff. Let's have a look at what's going on for Tommy. Now, up here, if you have a look, you know, he doesn't get there. He doesn't get there just on a single household income. What is happening for his ability to service this is basically only his income, folks. All right. And if you have a look, there's a few things that the lenders do. And now this is where it's the most confusing because it's like, can you afford the actual payments, the interest rate payments? Right. Now, if you worked it out, Tommy, our good old Tommy, mate, he could actually afford the interest rate payments. He can afford them, right? He's got the actual cash to pay for this. And often he's already, paying that in rent, right? But on paper, there's two calculations that the lenders use. So, and this is where, this is kind of the conversation in and around, folks. This is the conversation about, is the world going to end when it comes to, the interest rates going up and, everyone coming off the fixed rate and all this sort of rubbish that you hear out there. And the answer is no, that's bullshit. It's not going to end. What has happened for quite a while is an assessment rate. Now, I'm going to sort of get a little bit detailed today, so roll with me because this is important to understand because these are the things that will change into the future and that will signal for us the world of improving finance, okay? Improving finance as we go. Now, assessment rate, the ability for into the future based on some risk that that the banks are putting on there. All right. So what percentage is the bank putting on top of the actual interest rate to assess our Tommy test here? Right. And, put it in the chat. You can do the math. 7 minus 4 is 3. So there's 3% on top. Pretty well every lender out there, right, is putting 3%. Some folks are putting 4%. Have a look at this. Some down here, if you have a look at Latrobe, putting 5%. Holy moly, right? So there's an assessment rate problem, right? Now you think, oh, shit, I've got plenty of cash flow. Like I can pay for the loan. Number one hurdle, assessment rate. Okay, number one hurdle, assessment rate. So then the next one they've brought in, not too bad on recent times. In recent times, a debt to income ratio. Oh, not only if we don't get you on the assessment rate, then what I want to do is make sure you don't exceed, 6.25 debt to income ratio. Now, for me, this is just bullshit. But anyway, again, another hurdle to jump over. And Tommy Test, not making it across the chasm here for any of these, okay, when it comes to servicing, which is a shame. Now, let's have a look at if this is for an owner-occupier loan, and we'll talk about investment in a minute. What does Tommy do? At the end of the day, his expenses, which is HEMS, the household something measurement. I can't remember what the E stands for. Expenditure measurement, a household expenditure measurement. Yeah, mate, totally, Tim. Like, it's so annoying. Like, and the challenge is right now for most of us, we've got more equity than we've probably ever had before, and you friggin' can't get at it, right? And it's like, what? So frustrating, all right? But, we need to understand what's going on, what the effects of, let's say, an interest rate rise might do, and, then assess as we roll along, okay? But let's just do this. Let's do this. The easiest one is to say to Tom, mate, go get a pay rise. All right, let's do $90,000. 10 grand more. Is that possible? Boom. Go, Tommy. Tommy's got his loan. So for everyone sitting there right now, if you think about the effect of getting a small incremental pay rise, $10,000, that's doable, right? So number one, the easy one, obviously, for many of us is if we can, get a pay rise and also, ask for, you know, that consideration as we go along. What else can you do for income in here? This is a really good calculator. Has some good ideas. Any other casual income, any commissions, any overtime, allowances, bonuses, any foreign income, investment income, as we go. Um, um, you know, Second PAYG job, government payments, blah, 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 all of this other stuff. So there's some plenty of things there as you go along. Yeah. And Alison, sometimes you do have to go back and go, listen, my HEMS expense isn't regular because, I'm pretty good at this. And you have to show some evidence on that. Exactly, which is what you're saying, which is cool. So, Tommy's there. He's winning. All right. Now, let's go down and have a look at this loan. And instead of buying an owner occupier, this is sometimes where you got to sort of, rent vest and before you go. What would his serviceability be if he turned this into an investment property? Check out the servicing at the top there. It went from 500 to 746, right? So if we whack in the rental income, and we just need to do a little bit of this, call this, 650. Even if you put a really conservative 4% in there, as we go, the capacity for borrowing up the top here, 949,000, right? So sometimes for many of us, if we're looking at this stuff and go, okay, what's going to happen when it comes to, buying? Yeah, and 80% or 90% affects it too, Alison, when it comes to allowance of the income. And in here, you can find out from each of these lenders and policies what they do, right? So let's do something interesting here for a second. Let's override the interest rate, okay? Now, what was the interest rate before? Now, this is where we can see something that might affect things. The interest rate or the product rate, 6.79 for Latrobe. Down here is like 4.93. So let's just do 5%. Okay, so 5% right now. I'm going to whack that in there. Okay, 5%. And we're going to say, all right, this is what it looks like at 5%. Okay, max capacity at 5%. Now, if we were to get 3 more interest rate rises from now, 2.25s, we would pass that interest rate on. Now, stick with me. I just want to show you, is there going to be a massive effect right now on these next few interest rate rises? And the answer is not going to be massive, right? So let's go 5.75%. Did you see the difference? Okay, sorry. So 1,036,000. Stick with me. I'm going to delete this. 1, 2, 3. 1,036,000 to 1,100,000. All right. So it's about $70,000, folks, when it comes to an investment property and that sort of stuff. And if you look down the page here, it's a similar effect as we go along. So the point of this morning, and I'll come back to this for a second. The point of this morning is when it comes to those interest rate rises and things popping up and whatever, the next couple of interest rate rises are not going to affect in a seriously significant way serviceability, right? Like it for most of us. However, let's do this. All right. I want to do one last thing. I took a bit longer than I wanted to this morning. But let's just do this. Let's say we bought this property, and I'm going to say I bought it off the plan because I like off the plan for times like this, uncertain times. Let's say the quoted rent was 500. Now, when it lands in 2 years' time, the actual rent is 650 because we're looking good. Check that out, right? The interest, the servicing goes up another 70 grand or so anyway. Okay, so we counteract this with the rent. If we go here, 1.75, a million and 1,103,000. That's the $70,000 gap when it comes to servicing our rent's going up in the meantime. Hopefully that made sense. If that makes sense, it does get a bit complicated to try and explain this in a short period of time. But there you go. 2 levers we can pull: expenses down, income's up. You can earn more income, happy days, but also your property can earn more income. Okay. $100 worth of rental increase on that property counteracts the 2.5 interest rate rises that are possible in the next little bit. Okay. Um, that's another one when it comes to LMI and valuations and equity releases, Alison, as we go along. But anyway, a little bit data heavy this morning, a little bit down in the details. But for all of us, think about this: will your income increase in the next little while, next 1 to 2 years? Most likely, maybe. If you're good at your job, the opportunity to do that as we go along, fine. Will your property's rental income increase in the next 2 years? Yes, it will. Yes, it will. And, we've talked about that and the myriad of reasons for that right now. Okay. Anyway, there you go. Hopefully that made sense, team. When it came to circling around on the part 2 of our serviceability and borrowing power conversation the other day, we're done and dusted. Done and dusted for today. Anyway, join me tomorrow for another Wealth Coffee Chat. You wonderful, amazing people. Let's do it again tomorrow. As always, let me know in the chat if there's something that is on your mind, or maybe, we should pontificate or coffee chat over. Always let me know. All right, folks, that's it from me. You guys be awesome, be well, have a good rest of your day, and see you tomorrow. Later, folks. Bye-bye.